ghouls, we told you we were going to have a Day of the Dead show. Now, I didn't have a All Souls Day, but we are going to have a Day of the Dead, and we are going to cover Souls Day. There we are. And here we're going to talk about. By the way, this is Southern Pop Paranormal. We are for the first time on WLFEDB Radio Facebook page. So on Facebook twice. I put this on my original profile. I put this on WLFEDB's radio profile. It's also going on my YouTube channel, CARC PS Lynn Dorman. By the way, I want to inform you that this music that you heard, the creepy music, was All Souls Day and Day of the Dead. Day of the Dead technically goes from what we call Halloween through the next day, through the first, and ends on the second. Sometimes, depending on where you celebrate it, it goes to the third. We're going to talk about the standard celebration. By the way, the information is on Wikipedia.com. If you want to figure it out, go to Wikipedia, give them a donation, give them some cash. They could use it. I'm not even going to try to pronounce the Spanish names. My Spanish is horrible, and I'm not going to insult Spanish speakers by even trying. It's the days, as I said, was depending on locality. Highly observed in Mexico. If you remember the James Bond movie, use it as a beginning with him at a Day of the Dead celebration. It's also observed in other places, but mainly in Mexico. It's simultaneous to the Christian remembrances for Hallowtide. It uses much of a solemn tone. It's portrayed as a holiday or joyful celebration rather than mourning. It involves family and friends gathering to pay respects and to remember friends and family who have died. These celebrations can take a humorous tone. The celebrants remember funny events and anecdotes about the departed. You can use deceased using culture verbs. I'm not sure what that is. Marigold flowers, known as I'm not going to try it. Building home altars, called I'm not going to try it. My Spanish is hard. With the favorite foods and beverages of the departed, and of course your visiting grave, and using those items as gifts for the deceased. It's common to give gifts of candy, such as candy sugar skulls, to family and friends. Lighthearted celebration. Mexican academics, the smart folks, are divided on whether it has genuine indigenous pre-Hispanic roots or whether it's a 20th century rebranded version of a Spanish tradition. They're not sure, and if the smart people aren't sure, I sure as heck are not sure either. So to encourage Mexican nationalism through an Aztec identity, that's all speculation. Let them argue that. I will not enter that discussion. Is also a discussion on the indigenous pre-Hispanic roots, such as more modern adaptation of European tradition, or medieval Europe, where celebrations like All Saint Days and All Souls Day, which is yesterday, are observed on the same days in places like Spain and Southern Europe. Critics say that Native American origin claim that even though pre-Columbian Mexico had traditions that honored the dead, current descriptions of the festivity have more in common with European traditions, dance and macabre, macabre dance, and the allegories of life and death personified in the human skeleton to remind us the ephemeral nature of life. Past few decades, it has become increasingly question the validity of this assumption, even going as far as calling a politically motivated fabrication. That's interesting. Politics is in everything now. One historian says first in the context of the wider research across the centuries, he disregards a native or even Socratic origin, arguing that tradition can be fully traced to medieval Europe. And that is a she, by the way, because she highlights similar traditions in the same day, not just in Spain, but in the rest of Catholic Southern Europe and Latin America. So this is a little bit about this holiday. To the contrary, day officially isolated from the Catholic Church by the leftist government, motivated by indigenous Gestapo, and I guess the indigenous celebrating the pre-Spanish people. And the left-leaning Machado himself goes as far as calling the festivity a Cardenist invention, where the Catholic elements are removed and emphasis is laid on indigenous iconography. Iconography. There you go. The focus of the death and what Malfado considers to be the cultural invention according to which Mexicans venerate death. So there's a big controversy on who and why they celebrate this, from whose traditions, Native Americans, Spanish, Italian, or just something made up by a certain government that was down in Mexico. Either way, it's a lot of fun. They have some fantastic parties in Mexico today, and it's interesting. One tradition is to build private altars containing the favorite foods and beverages. I've mentioned that. Plans for the day are made throughout the year, including gathering the goods offered to the dead. During the 3-day period, families usually clean and decorate graves. Most visit cemeteries where their loved ones are buried and decorate their graves with altars, which often include orange, Mexican marigolds. And in modern Mexico, the marigold is sometimes called Flor de Muerto, flower of the dead. These flowers are thought to attract the souls of the dead to the offerings. It is also believed the bright petals with a strong scent can guide the souls from cemeteries to family homes. A little bit different than what a lot of paranormal investigators will want to do. Toys are brought for dead children, and bottles of tequila, let's not give that to the children, or jars of Atole for adults. Families offer trinkets or the deceased's favorite candles on the grave. Some families have altars in the homes, usually with foods and candied pumpkin. Pan de Muerto, bread of the dead. Some believe spirits of the dead eat the spiritual essence of the offender's food. So those celebrants eat the food after the festivities. They believe it packs nutrition. That's a T, not a P. I gotta say packs nutritional value. Pillows and blankets are left out so the deceased can rest after their long journey. Ghosts do get tired. In some parts of Mexico, such as towns, Mixquic, people spend all night beside the graves of their relatives. In many places, people have picnics at the graves as well. So I guess in certain parts of Mexico, people are sleeping in their cemeteries. Interesting tradition. Not to be allowed here because most states will not allow you in the cemetery after dark. They don't allow you to celebrate this. Some families build altars. I already covered that in the homes. Common symbol of the holiday is the skull. I do believe we've kind of got that at least down pat as Americans. With celebrants represent in masks called, I'm not going to pronounce that word, mask, and foods such as chocolate or sugar skulls, which were inscribed with the name of the recipient on the forehead. Sugar skulls can be given as gift to both the living and the dead. Other holiday foods include a sweet egg bread made in various shapes. Now I'm getting hungry. From plain rounds to skulls, often associated with white frosting that look like twisted bones. Larger cities, children in costumes roam the streets. Sounds familiar for Halloween. Knocking on people's doors for a small gift of candies or money. They can also ask passersby for it. This is similar to that of Halloween trick-or-treating. Yes, I believe it's pretty much the definition of trick-or-treating. Literary forms exist where people write short poems in a traditional rhyming verse. Poetry. Mostly dedicated to friends, classmates, co-workers, family members, living or dead, but also to historical figures, describing interesting habits and attitudes, as well as comedic or absurd anecdotes that use death-related imagery. So this is quite a bit of what we do on Halloween and other celebrations around the 31st. The elegant skull is a parody of a Mexican upper-class female. Sato's intent with the image was to ridicule others that would claim the culture of the Europeans over the culture of the indigenous people. The image was a skeleton with a big floppy hat, decorated with two big feathers and multiple flowers on top of the hat. Beside strikingly image of a costume female with a skeleton face have become associated with the Day of the Dead. And Katrina figures often are prominent and part of the modern Day of the Dead observances. Okay, very interesting. I mean, something like this. Or this. Traditions, activities take place are in the Day of the Dead are not universal, often varying from town to town. One town, very different, if the deceased is a child rather than an adult. November 1st, the year after the child's death, the godparents set a table in the parents' home with sweets, fruits, pan murto, a cross, a rosary, used to ask the Virgin Mary to pray for them, and candles. This is meant to celebrate the child's life in respect and appreciation to the parents. There's also dancing with colorful costumes, often with a skull-shaped mask and devil's mask in the plaza or garden of the town. At midnight on November 2nd, the people light candles and ride wing boats called butterflies to Jacinto, an island in the middle of the lake, where there is a cemetery to honor celebrate the lives of the dead there. Other towns have other traditions. As a James Bond film Spectre, the Day of the Dead was in Mexico City. At the time, no such parade took place in Mexico City, 1 year later due to the interest in the film and the government desire to promote the Mexican culture. Federal and local decided later to organize an actual Dia de Muertos parade to Paseo de la Forma and Centro Historico on October 29, 2016, which is attended by 250,000 people. This could be seen as an example of the pizza effect, that if a mass celebration also popularized the Disney Pixar movie Coco. So that's some of Day of the Dead celebration in the movies. Many U.S. communities, freaks, and residents, Day of the Dead celebrants very similar to those held in Mexico and Texas and Arizona. It's also held annually at the historic Forest Hill Cemetery in Boston's Jamaica Plain neighborhood, sponsored by Forest Hills Educational Trust. Interesting. Boston even gets into it. Smithsonian Institute, collaboration University of Texas El Paso, created Smithsonian Latino Virtual Museum and accompanying multimedia ebook to celebrate the Day of the Dead. In California, Santa Ana, California, is said to hold the largest event in Southern California on Dia de Muertos, called the annual Noche de Altars, began in 2002. It's grown to two large events with the creation of an event held by the Santa Ana Regional Transportation Center for the first time on November 1st, 2015. So that shows you that this does get around across the country and actually America. In Italy, November 2nd is All Souls Day, and it's known as Day of the Dead or Giorno de Morti. While many regional nuisances exist, celebrations could exist, just placing flowers at cemeteries and family burial sites and deceased relatives. Like other Day of the Dead traditions around the world, is they dedicated to honoring the lives of those who have died. It's also a tradition that teaches children not to be afraid of death. That's one thing we do the opposite in America. Food plays an important part, of course. It's also celebrated in Australia, Fiji, and Indonesia. And also held in a major celebration held in Wellington, New Zealand, complete with altars. Philippines, which was also originally started by the Spanish, they celebrate there visiting the family dead to clean and repair their tombs, like in Mexico. They offer prayers, flowers, candles, even food. While Chinese Filipinos burn joysticks and joist paper. They also spend the day and ensuing night holding reunions at the cemetery, having feast in merriment. This is just really interesting. It differs a little bit, very slightly. In Brazil, Ecuador, Guatemala, and Peru. They play music and decorate the graves. And southern Italy and Sicily, they have a biscotti type cookie called Bones of the Dead, and are made and placed in shoes once worn by dead relatives. Okay. Guess that's adding a little bit of soul to your celebration. Somebody hit the drums, please. Hi. Anyway, that's a little bit of the Day with the Dead. I will honor a person I know that died very young, child, 11 months and 4 days is rather young. She, called Libby Mae Humphrey, died in 1865. I visited her grave quite a bit and actually got her talking. One day, she was there with her mother at the graveside. And I was there trying to talk with her. And in the conversation, of course, somebody came into the cemetery, a family, two very young teenage daughters, talking about maybe 12 to 14, came in there and, of course, asked what I was doing. So in explaining it, they said, the man said, "Where are the ghosts?" The wife suddenly saw a little bit of both Amelia Humphrey and Libby May standing there on top of the Patrick family gravesite, which has got about 5 or 6 of the Patrick family members, including Libby May Humphrey. She pointed to the two spirits standing there and said, "There they are." The father put his fist like this on either side of his head and started running around in a circle. Not saying anything, but running like this in a circle. The wife said they're staring, frozen in place, at the two spirits. The two children didn't move a muscle for 3 or 4 minutes. The guy kept on running around in a circle. The wife kept pointing. The father finally stopped for a few seconds and held his hands down from here and was standing there like this, like he was in a cartoon. Well, I said, "You can't see them. They're standing right there," and pointing. He put his fist back on the side of his head and started running in circles again, trying to run faster this time. Suddenly, he breaks a circle and starts running out of the cemetery. When he started leaving the area, the girls finally decided they'd move, turned around and looked at him. The mother watched him leave the cemetery, and the 3 women bolted for the front gate to the cemetery. And by the time I walked to the front gate, they were already around a curve that was at least 60, 70, 80 yards away. And they had run that fast to where I could not see them. Libby May and her mother had scared this family slam out of the cemetery they came to visit. That was a humorous story. And that is going to just about do it for tonight. That's a humorous story. I appeared in my normal state because this is what I normally look like. See what having a paranormal show does to you? It's death on a plate. Anyway, I'd like to say that the YouTube site for WLFE DB Radio, we're not posting that right now. We are posting to the WLFE DB Radio Facebook page. Of course, you can see this show on this is on my profile page. You can normally see it on the Southern Fried Paranormal page, which is a page off my profile. You can also watch it on now WLFEDB Radio's Facebook page. You can also watch it on my YouTube page, which is CARK, SERKPS, Lynn Dorman, and you can watch it on YouTube. And once again, this music, I don't own it, but I am licensed to use it. I would like to close with a couple of things. Got to get a little bit of advertising in. And this has been the ending of my 13 days of spectacular fun for Halloween. I did an 11-hour broadcast that's available on Facebook or YouTube. 11 hours outside broadcast. I played some videos of another investigation in New Orleans. I also held a couple of hours of EchoVox sessions outside the house. I was inviting spirits to come to outside the house instead of coming inside. And I got cussed. I got dropped the F-bomb several times. Anyway, there was the day of the celebration, and this is part and the ending of my 13 days. I will have a show on Thursday, which is tomorrow night at the regular time of 10 o'clock Central, 11 o'clock Eastern, versus 8 o'clock on the West Coast. We're having a regular show at a regular time. I don't have a guest, so I'll probably be showing a video or two, talking for a bit. For advertising, I'd like to remind people that Gypsy Soul Holistic Fair was this past weekend in Fresno, Texas, but it's also held in Oklahoma during the summer, and they do visit in Hot Springs, Arkansas in March or April. Those dates are yet to be set. I have agreed to appear at the one in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I will be there with friend of the show and former guest, Phoenix Jansen. And why do I bring up Phoenix Jansen? Because she is the Scarefest committee chairwoman and will be a guest at the Fearfest Paragon to be held in New Orleans next October. I have agreed to be there. I will be broadcasting there, at least a couple of shows from there. And Phoenix and I will be ghost hunting with her group wherever we stay. As she is reforming her group, she calls it Phoenix Rising Investigations and Productions. The Parallax and is sponsoring this, along with Paranormal Swamp Investigations, a very interesting crew, along with the Parapost network of paranormal shows. So I will be working with all these people, and there will be some serious ghost hunting with me and several people there. Of course, Phoenix's own paranormal group. Location, times, guest will be announced. I will keep you informed every time Phoenix Jansen updates me. I will update you. This is going to be a haunted event in a very haunted city, and hopefully they will book a haunted hotel. Just triple digit fun for in New Orleans. All right. Tonight's show, the ending of all the Halloween stuff. I guess at the end of the night, I can go back to my human form. The wife is refusing to kiss me like this. What do you say? The wife has nothing to say. She doesn't talk to me when I got my real face on. Anyway, we are going to get out of here, and I leave you with another little bit of music. Again, I do have permission to use these songs. Good night, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow night, 11 o'clock.